But Odin had a trick up his sleeve. For his final question to Vafthrûdnir, he asked, "And what, wise giant, did Odin whisper in the ear of Balder before that great son of his was burned on the funeral pyre?" Vafthrûdnir became livid with rage. "Now I see who you really are," he said grimly. For only Odin himself could know the answer to that question. He clenched his teeth and his fists and closed his eyes. When he opened them, however, his face had an expression of melancholy acceptance, and he said, "Now, for the first time in my life, I have lost a contest of lore. But my consultation will be that I lost to Odin, the most knowledgeable being there is." Daniel McCoy, The Viking Spirit, an introduction to Norse mythology and religion. Greetings, mortals. I'm your host Simon. In case you didn't know, I am from northern Sweden, and today I will be speaking to you about my Viking ancestors' high god, Odin. Now, sit down, relax, and grab your favorite drink, because today we will be learning all about the connection between Odin and Hermes. Skål för det! The one-eyed god, the wanderer, the all-father, the god of magic and wisdom. Just like Hermes, Odin is associated with more things in his pantheon than any other god, from royalty, war, death, knowledge, sorcery, poetry, and many more things. The source of most surviving information about him associates him with wisdom, healing, death, royalty, the gallows, knowledge, war, battle, victory, sorcery, poetry, frenzy, and the runic alphabet. In Greek mythology, we have the three sisters called the Fates, who presides over the weaving of destinies of both mortals and gods alike. In Norse mythology, we have the Norns as the sisters of fate, and they were said to be the only ones able to read the runic alphabet. Just like Thoth is said to have invented writing, Odin visits the Aesir Mimir, arguably the wisest of the Aesir gods, who spends all his time in solitude, drinking from a well at one of Yggdrasil's roots that is said to contain great knowledge. Odin asks Mimir if he can have one drink, but Mimir says he will only agree to it if Odin can provide something of equal or greater value in return. Mimir knew that Odin had the ability to see far and wide, so Mimir asked for one of Odin's eyes. Odin, without hesitation, plucks out one of his eyes. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Matthew 6:22. It is from Odin we get the cheeky wink, to symbolize that we are rascals, just like Odin. In wider Germanic mythology and paganism, Odin was also known in Old English as Woden, and in Old High German as Wotan, all ultimately stemming from the Proto-Germanic theonym Wodanas, meaning Lord of Frenzy or Leader of the Possessed. The warriors that were most closely associated with Odin were called berserkers, which entered into frenzied battle states by consuming the psychedelic mushroom known as Amanita muscaria, also known as toadstool, and the foes that they slayed in the heat of battle were seen to be sacrifices to Odin. As a god of wisdom, one might think his warfare strategy would be more akin to the tactical warfare of Athena, but in reality, his warcraft was more closely linked to that of Ares and the frenzied state he is infamous for. Odin loved war so much that, if he did not have any enemies to battle, he would often turn allies against each other just for the thrill of war. This is why Odin was also seen as a divine trickster, just like his Greek counterpart Hermes. But at the same time, he was also seen as a wise and benevolent king. But quite frankly, Odin did not care what you thought of him, as long as you respected his rule as the king of the cosmos. The purpose of a trickster figure is to create progress and change. Order has to be broken for something new to form. Odin creates the world with his brothers by creating chaos from the order that existed previously. Yes, order is re-established in a new and different way. But even as Odin fights to maintain the new order he has created, he befriends Loki and seeks a certain kinship with him. I think that Odin recognized something of himself in Loki. Now Odin has over 200 names or titles. There are two that stand out in the context that I'd like to focus on. And they were Haptagud, meaning God of prisoners, and Haptsuniri, meaning feather loosener. Because if you tried trapping him, he would just go into a frenzy state and break free from any bond placed on him. I would also suggest a different title, the God of Paradoxes, as not even paradoxes could bind him in his frenzied state. Just like Hermes, he was associated with wolves, Geri and Freki, both meaning the ravenous or greedy one, which are two wolves which are said to accompany the god Odin. Odin's antagonist was also a wolf by the name of Fenrir, hence one of Odin's many titles being Bagi Ulfs, or enemy of the wolf. Because it was prophesied that Fenrir would be the one to kill Odin during Ragnarok, Odin had Fenrir bound to a rock by a supposedly unbreakable chain crafted by the dwarves. This to me represents the wolf inside Odin, his shadow aspect, and the rock here representing the permanence of the bond. Just like with Zeus being saved by his mother by replacing Zeus with a rock, which represented permanence. He was able to trick Cronus into swallowing a rock wrapped in linens instead of Zeus. As Cronus or Saturn is a god of time, this makes Zeus the rightful ruler, as he was able to escape even the clutches of the god of time. Thoth and Hermes were of course also said to be gods of time. Another one of Odin's titles was Fjolnir, meaning wise one, concealer, or the one who is many. This ties in to the Brotherhood of the Serpent, which I have previously talked about, a secret order created by Anu and his son Enki to maintain the wisdom of the gods for humanity in the future. The link between Anu and his son Enki seems to be the same one shared by Zeus and his son Hermes. The two seems to share an oversoul. If you want to know more about Anu, I have previously made a video about him, link up top. Anyways, to get back to Zeus, for imprisoning Gaia's children inside of her, Gaia gave birth to Typhon, the father of monsters, who was Zeus's equal, and Typhon even managed to defeat Zeus. Typhon then removed Zeus's tendons and imprisoned him. It was only through the help of Hermes that Zeus was freed and eventually managed to defeat Typhon. In Norse mythology, the people who worshipped Odin were often those that were exceptional in some way. Kings who worshipped Odin often claimed a blood relation to the All-Father himself. But just like with Hermes, it was not only kings who worshipped him, but also outlaws and thieves. Just like Hermes from Greek mythology, Odin was a versatile god. This can be seen by the different crafts that fell under his domain. Wisdom and war were seen as masculine crafts, while poetry and magic were seen as feminine traits. But Odin, just like Hermes, did not care. He was a god of knowledge, and the All-Father was wise enough to know that all of these crafts could aid him. Odin is the god that created himself, just like Thoth was said to have created himself. Hence Odin's name meaning one in Russian, the first being to come into existence, the god of all things. Wednesday is Woden's Day. In both Islamic and Jewish calendars, Wednesday is the 4th day of the week. In some other languages, such as French, Mercediri or Italian Mercoledì, the day's name is a calque of Latin Dies Mercurii, or Day of Mercury, reflecting the fact that the Germanic god Woden during the Roman era was interpreted as Germanic Mercury. The creation narrative in the Hebrew Bible places the creation of the sun and moon on the 4th day of the divine work week. Quakers traditionally referred to Wednesday as the 4th day to avoid pagan association with the name Wednesday, or in keeping with the practice of treating each day as equally divine. Wednesday is sometimes informally referred to as Hump Day in North America, a reference to the fact that Wednesday is in the middle of the day or hump of a typical work week. Lillelørdag, or Little Saturday, is a Nordic tradition of turning Wednesday evening into a small weekend-like celebration. Wednesday is one of the only 3 days, aside from Neptune and Pluto, to be associated by another planet, which is Uranus. Speculating here, but Uranus might have a connection to Anu. Hermes Trismegistus comes from a title for Thoth, meaning thrice greatest, and one of Odin's titles was Thiridi, meaning third. Another title connecting him to Hermes is Veratyr, meaning god of man or god of being. We need to embrace our anger. By that I mean we want to recognize the sacredness of anger. Many deities from all around the world depict anger in a sacred way. Kali, the Morrigan, Hades, Seth, Mars, Minerva, Lugh, Thor, Vulcan, Odin, and Fionn Mac Cumhail are all deities that express a divine kind of anger. They are avengers, hunters, protectors and warriors, gods and goddesses of death and slaughter. Lawrence Gallian, Beyond Duality, the Art of Transcendence. Thank you for listening, and I hope you mortals learned something new. I just wanted to apologize for the slow and infrequent upload schedule, but since I have to do everything myself, from research, writing, and editing, it simply takes a lot of time to produce a video. I hope you can forgive me for my tardiness. Last time I promised you a video on the connection between Greek mythology and the Bible, but this topic came up, so I just kinda went with the flow, because I realized that the video on the Greek mythological connection is gonna take a lot more research to do well. Anyways, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you haven't. I'd also like to say thank you to my Patreon supporters, and if anybody of you are interested in reading my material instead, then go support me on Patreon. For only $6 a month, you will have access to what I believe at this point is hundreds of pages of my writings. See you next time, mortals. May Odin guide you on your path, traveler.